Hello and welcome to the next installment in our cross-border remittance innovation series, Making Payments Faster, Spotlight on Mexico. Today's conversation will be a moderated panel discussion, 35 minutes of conversation, followed by 15 to 25 minutes of Q&A. You can use the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen to ask questions. For questions that we do not cover, we will send a follow-up email. This webinar will be recorded and made available online. Please join me in welcoming our moderator, Thomas Trepanier.
Welcome everyone to the Roxe webinar, Spotlight on Mexico, Enabling Faster Cross-Border Payments. My name is Thomas Trepanier, and I'm the Managing Director of Business Development for Roxe and the moderator for today's panel. In short, Roxe is an open global payment network and uses blockchain technology to unify fragmented global payment systems so that payment and remittance companies, digital asset exchanges, stablecoin issuers, banks, and consumers can make the fastest, least expensive, and most reliable payments anywhere in the world. Before I introduce our panelists, let me say a few words about today's agenda. We will cover three major areas, including we'll talk about how COVID-19 is accelerating the pace of cash's decline and what you can expect to see in 2021 with the payment and remittance segments in Mexico. Then in the second section, we will hear the panelists' thoughts on best practices in the remittance and payment space across the Mexican market. Finally, we'll shift gears and talk about innovation in the remittance and payment industry. We'll discuss innovations that are not based on blockchain, and then innovations that are based on blockchain technologies. After we go through the three major areas, we'll have a brief Q&A session with our viewers. Now, let me introduce our panelists. Matthius Würmoeck is a partner, co-founder, and chief commercial officer at Transpaygo Limited. Matthius has been living in different parts of the world, and during his MBA found the interest in FX markets. Having spent some time then working for a family office, he moved in 2013 to London to work for a boutique hedge fund. It was during this time that he met up with a friend who is now his business partner and joined Transpaygo, a fintech and remittance space firm focused on niche markets. In his business development role, Matthius pushed more innovation into Transpaygo and has been keen on using other blockchain technologies for money remittances. Transpaygo operates now in 2 jurisdictions and is about to go live in 3 more, among them Mexico. I'd also like to introduce Luis Ortiz Carrillo. Luis Ortiz has been the Chief Operating Officer at Klar since its earliest days in 2019. He has focused on 3 main goals, including designing, automating, and executing scalable company-wide processes, building and refining collaborations with the financial and logistics partners, orchestrating transformational processes, and acting as a liaison between all business areas and technology. Prior to joining Klar, Luis was instrumental in working at the crossroads of finance and technology. His experiences include roles at McKinsey, and he collaborated in the tech transformation of several European and Latin American banks, including Belcorp, where he led the implementation of microcredit and microinsurance programs offered to over 1 million women sales force for an entrepreneurial venture, InvoPlace. Luis currently holds a computer science engineering degree from Universidad Complutense and an MBA from MIT. Now that I've introduced the thought leaders on our panel, let's turn to the first area of focus, the current state of affairs in payments and remittances in Mexico. The year 2020 changed our world and how we interact within it more than any other year in recent history. For the first time, no matter where we were, we experienced something together. Disruptions in payment types were equally as dramatic as the reductions in total volume. COVID-19 accelerated the pace of cash's decline faster than even the most bullish projections. The pandemic accelerated the decline of cash by over 3 years, and exceeding in 2020. Regional e-commerce growth accelerated in 2020 as well, with transaction volume growth of 22.2% in Brazil, 24.4% in Mexico, and 29.8% in Chile, as some large examples in the region. So my first question to the panel is today, what do you expect to see in 2021 with your respective segments in Mexico and other markets in Latin America? I guess I'll pose that question to Matthius to start.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Let's start with 2020. We've seen, that's when it started all. We saw first, obviously, a small growth before everyone had to stay at home. And the moment everyone had a home office, I personally started, going more shopping on Amazon than going to the stores. And we have seen as a company, as a remittance company, as well, tremendous growth in 2020. And especially into the Latin American markets, we have seen there was a way higher demand on our website. And therefore, for 2020, we've seen a good year. And we believe as well that more customers are coming as well in 2021, and this will continue this way. Customers are just looking for alternatives, especially in the cash-based societies.
Thank you, Matthias. I guess, Luis, do you have any comments you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, actually, from our perspective, both 2020 and 2021 are being and will continue being really, really exciting years. Because basically, we are seeing tremendous changes on both sides of the market. On the one side, we have customers who are dramatically changing their behavior based on the current circumstances of having to stay at home or RISN that the current pandemic had impacted. And on the other side, and particularly in Mexico, we are also seeing a very significant change on the offer side. We have a number of players that are getting in the Fintech arena. At the same time, we have all the changes in regulations that are starting to be applied. A number of players that are getting formalized their licenses. Also, some consolidations have started. So really, really excited for what is coming forward in the upcoming months.
If I may just add on the cash-based society, yes, we've seen obviously in Mexico, I think a lot of people switching to contactless where it is possible. However, I've seen as well on a personal basis, again, you don't have as much cashless, or contactless payment points here in Mexico. And cash in Mexico, I think, will continue to stay for quite a while a very cash-based society. Not only Mexico, I think this is going for a lot of the Latin American markets. But I think, living here in Mexico for a while now, and my wife being Mexican, that's what I just see here in Mexico personally, that a lot of people still use a lot of cash.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much. Very interesting, and actually, it's a good segue into another topic that I'd love to touch upon. It's given that you mentioned that, Matthias, I guess we can also talk about how the central bank has launched the National Digital Payments Platform, the Cobro Digital, and that's something that it was intended to enable users to transact more with mobile devices. So I guess it's your response just now kind of answers the next question, which is the behavior of the consumers really hasn't really gravitated towards that. I mean, as your view, you're seeing more people just still remain using cash. Cash is still king, and in a large part of Mexico, or in other parts of Latin America anyway.
Yeah, I think that this Cobro Digital initiative is a good initiative of the central bank. It just maybe is not marketed, or it's not targeted to the right target audience. If we look at the demographics and we say, okay, there's this 1% population that has the money or has the means, and then we have this very small middle class that has an access to a debit card, credit card, that are probably as well the target customers of Klar. those are the ones that can be targeted, but the majority of the people still work and live with cash. So I think this is maybe a little bit of one of the potential issues with Copo Digital. The technology itself is quite interesting, and it's very fast. I mean, we talk here about the faster, similar to the faster payment scheme in the UK. For us as a company using this Pay system, this of Copo Digital, this instant settlement is something actually we're very happy about when we transfer money into Mexico or from our Mexican accounts to the end user or end receiver. We know that the customer receives it within minutes. Yeah. So from a cash planning perspective, that is quite fantastic, and we're happy about that.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I think that it also speaks to the best practices in both the remittance and payment space. So I guess if I were to say, Luis, over the past year, how has your business strategy changed in Mexico? I know your main focus is in Mexico today. So if you were to provide some color around that.
Yeah, actually, I mean, regarding Cody, I think it's a really interesting project because probably we have to start with SPAY. SPAY, it's something that I consider really a state-of-the-art technology, like the rails for the Mexican interbank payment systems are truly amazing. You can settle within seconds, and it's a service that is really inexpensive, particularly if you compare with other countries like the US, where oftentimes it will take you maybe a couple of years and a good bunch of dollars to complete the transfer. Here in Mexico, it's just a couple of seconds, and oftentimes almost free of charge for the client. For the banks, is also kind of inexpensive. So if you move to Cody, that is kind of putting an even better technology layer on top of the interbank payment rails, you may think that it's a project that should dramatically succeed. At the end of the day, you are building from the pillars. You are building from the very beginning. But surprisingly, what we observe is that in Mexico, it's happening something that is literally the reverse to other markets, because basically we have the rails, we have the underlying technologies, but it's like there is no front-end technology that is appealing enough to the clients. Literally the opposite to what you see in other markets, particularly in the US, where they don't have the rails, but they have put together some apps, some technologies in the front end that made the ecosystem more appealing to users. So that's something quite interesting. What we have observed is that Cody so far has not really managed to take off. Our reading is that it has to do a little bit with incentives to the different participants in the ecosystem, a little bit with the onboarding of the different clients. And basically what I mean is that in terms of incentives, is something that is being suggested, is being kind of offered by the central banks to the main financial institutions to be offered to their clients. But it's like it seems that it's not very clear for those institutions why to use the Cody. Particularly, it seems like it may be competing with credit card, with other more established participants in the ecosystem, and then it comes to the onboarding of the different clients. Probably like some efforts are still needed to make sure that the different merchants, that the different stores accept Cody, and something similar to what happened with onboarding on credit cards has to happen for a full deployment of the technology. But the bottom line is that in terms of possibilities is truly amazing.
No, I think you both are summing it up quite well. I would agree. It seems that the elimination of traditional use of cash will take some time as the industry becomes more accustomed to it. But to your point, this with the SPAY in the backdrop, that does already they already have the efficient channel that the market's already leveraging today. But that's it's perhaps what we could do is to enhance this a little bit as in our discussion today. If the two of you had to take a look at the payment space across the Mexican market and perhaps outside, as it interacts with other markets in the region, have you seen yourselves having to pivot or kind of move a little bit in a different direction than you originally anticipated from a business and strategic perspective? Let's start with Luis.
Yeah.
What Matthias said.
No. Ask Luis. Go ahead.
Okay, so basically we are still pretty much executing on our original strategy. Definitely, we needed to make some push to accommodate the trends in the market, or more than the trends, the actual realities. And for instance, Matthias and you, Thomas, have been mentioning one of the most important ones. There is cash. Use of cash is still the main way for our target population, our client base, to operate. So what we need to make sure is that we accommodate those behaviors. We are already offering them a number of possibilities for them to deposit cash, so that they can use that afterwards through other payment system, to make sure that we offer them all the possibilities that they are looking, and to make sure that we can consider their behavior, in which is our ultimate goal, that is basically democratizing the access to credit in Mexico. So what we needed to do is to make sure that it's not just about the people who have the payroll, a regular payroll that comes through an SPAY or through a payroll depositing mechanism, consider as part of their usual behavior, but also to adapt and to consider that a number of people still receive a significant part of their income through other channels, and operate through other channels.
Matthias?
Yeah, no, I think good point here, Luis, and I think that's one of the challenges here in Mexico, in the banking system, to get people into the banking system. We're still having a lot of this informal banking channels. Just I know from enough people that have a maid, and yes, they're being employed, but they want to be paid in cash. And is it because they don't want to avoid taxes, or is it because they feel safer with it? They literally travel then in a bus to go home for 2-3 hours with a bundle of cash of 20,000 pesos or something like that, and then they wonder that they're being robbed or something. Yeah. So, and instead of getting them, hey, why don't you use a debit card like Klar or someone similar? Yeah, that's kind of one of the challenges I see here in Mexico. On our side, on the remittance business, did we have to change anything? As I said, last year has been quite a good year for us, and especially as well with Mexico, we saw an uptake and more interest in the Mexican market from our clients in Europe. Did we get off? We got a lot of requests from customers. Hey, but we need the cash out solution, and we saw as well the Mexicans in Europe were looking at us saying, hey, well, if you don't work with OXXO, or if you don't work with Electra, it's very difficult, for us to trust you. It's still a lack of trust there, because they say, oh, we can send it to a bank as well. In the end, some of the customers realized, yes, we are much faster by using backend, other technologies, such as we're using Ripple in the background at the moment. But what is it that we needed to change? I think what we are going to change here is trying to really find good partners that we can work with, such as Roxe, for example, or Klar, to offer new channels for our customers to top up a debit card, top up a credit card, offer payments for services, and especially, the cash out, because as I said, cash out is the king, or cash is the king. And I think that is something that will not change in the next 2 years, 3 years. I think this is something that will take some time, and an initiative has to be pushed by the government, has to be pushed by the central bank in a not too aggressive way, I would say.
Yeah,
This is customers the security, the end user.
I fully agree with you, Matthias. I think that we have a dual role of at the same time trying to push for the overall transformation, for the overall modernization of the different payment channels, but we cannot be blind to the Mexican reality or to whichever reality in the country that we may be operating. So I think that it's a very interesting situation to be in, which we with one hand we are pushing for a transformation. With the other hand, we are also making all our efforts to accommodate to the current behaviors of the clients.
Yeah. In the end, if the end user doesn't use your product,
indeed,
well, you just lose money on investing in it. But but at the same time, you want to have the best possible product for a customer as well.
Excellent viewpoints. Thank you, gentlemen. I guess to transition a bit, this question is geared more for Luis. So I guess, Luis, from your perspective at Klar, how are you seeing the banking industry change across the Mexican financial services landscape?
That's a very interesting question, and I think that as I was kind of mentioning on my first response, I think it's a really exciting year coming forward. So particularly we are already seeing very interesting outcomes of the Mexican Fintech regulation, where some of the players are already getting responses where the whole thing is taking a much more solid form, and then like the ecosystem in general is becoming much more formalized, much more structured. At the same time, it's impacting the users in the sense that awareness is being created, in the sense that the different fintechs are becoming a real player into the market. We are already passing the threshold of the early adopters, and we are becoming a real option for a number of people. So the traction is starting to be larger and larger. So really interesting year. And then these behaviors, these changes that we are observing on the more kind of innovative part of the financial ecosystem, everything that is related to fintechs, to innovation. It's our understanding that it's putting some pressure to the more traditional financial institutions like banks. So it's like those small players that were playing in their corners now are becoming relevant, are making some noise. So I think that 2021 and definitely 2022 are going to be really interesting years for the whole Mexican financial ecosystem.
Excellent, thank you, Luis.
I just wanted to add on, and I think we can see that as well in Mexican markets, that a lot of the banks starting to try to become more digital with digital onboarding and so on. It's not as efficient yet. when you I'm a customer, by the way, of Klar. Then when you try to do it with one of those neobanks, but I think that's just because of the traditional IT infrastructure systems that they have in the background. But you can see that they are trying to transform some parts of the unit or some units in their business. But obviously they're big, I compare them, they're big ships or tankers compared to fintechs or small agile players that can adapt maybe a little bit quicker.
Excellent,
So, yeah.
gentlemen. Thank you for that. I guess if we pivot a little bit, since this question of this area would be geared more actually for both of you, rather for both Luis and Matthias. So since many of the attendees for this webinar are likely to be banks, payment and remittance companies who have customers that are also looking to send funds across borders, what advice would you, if you had to, if you were able to give advice to others in terms of implementing some of the best practices, where would you focus
on? I think my biggest advice is try to work together with some of the established players already. Try to find a good partner that you feel comfortable with, especially as well for fintechs going into Mexico, for banks in Mexico. Don't exclude partners just because they're complete, or potential partners because they're new or they have something different. They might have something to offer you that you don't have right now. But for example, if we look for a bank account, but the bank doesn't have any FX infrastructure, for example, then just try to work together. Try to see it as an additional offering to your clients. Those are the typical things that you will see in Mexico, but as well other countries. There's still this blocking of banks trying to work together with fintechs. In the end, you're just going to hurt your own business if you don't try to work together. That's you see this all over, and I think this is as well in Mexico the case.
Thanks, Matthias.
Yeah. I think I fully agree with Matthias. I think that the other way to look at it is. It's about focus, about priorities, about how to really disrupt a piece of the market. So I tend to believe that it's fairly difficult to do 10, 12, or 20 things really, really well at the same time, particularly for startups like us. What we typically have is the best intentions. We typically have a lot of energy, but what we don't typically have are unlimited resources. So it's fairly complicated for us to try to do everything in the world at the same time. So in those cases are when probably partnerships are a very good approach, because then you're going to have a couple of companies that are putting all their energy into really disrupting a piece of the market. And that's when I think that you can truly innovate and add force, so that you don't have to become real expert on everything, but you can add value to your ultimate users through a number of pieces without having to invest all the resources that you are investing in your primary market or in your core.
Correct. Yeah, and I think one more thing is have a good lawyer or a law firm to advise you, because there are a lot of small hidden traps that you can run into Mexico, and you don't want to do that.
I think it applies to everything related to our industries, actually.
Yeah.
Interesting, gentlemen. Thank you for that. That's fantastic. It's always great to get the insights from both sides, both from Transpaygo and Klar on that. I guess if we were to move into the third section of the discussion, perhaps what we could do is talk a little bit more to take what we've learned today and elaborate a little bit further regarding the innovation in the space. So with the Mexican open banking regulation as an example, that's allowing banks to develop connectivity mechanisms. So like, for example, APIs to facilitate access to the data that the banks are looking for. How do you view that will resonate with the end consumer?
First of all, I think it needs to happen in reality. I'm very pessimistic about that the banks will really give other companies, players access to their data. We've seen this in Europe with as well the open banking, that they're supposed to help you and give you access to the data and so on, and it's not really happening. Some banks are doing it, but let's be realistic. The banks have so much data about you as a customer. If they want to, they could have more information about you than Google or Amazon. Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see if they will actually change and if they will actually give access to the banking information. Could it change a lot? Yes, it would help a lot in the onboarding and the KYC processes and the exchange of data within, for companies such as ours. That's my take here on the APIs.
Yeah, I think it's a really good initiative. It may have a real potential positive impact on the clients. I think it's something that if you look from a very high level perspective, you'd say it makes sort of sense. Like, I'm the owner of my own data. I'm the owner of my financial situation, about whatever I do with the money. And we truly think that it could be of a tremendous value to the clients. And I think about us, for instance, about Klar, and it's like, if we knew much more about the clients, if the clients would be able to tell us much more about themselves, we could offer immediately much better products to them, because we are willing to do that. We are really trying to disrupt the way in which credit is being offered to the Mexican market, and that involves a real use of data instead of traditional mechanisms that are used by traditional players, and hence leaving outside of the actual offer to a really huge percentage of the population. So I think it's something that the clients deserve. It's something that the population deserve, and I'm kind of bullish on its execution. I think it will take time for sure, because again, and kind of similar to Cody, incentives may not be truly aligned for everyone. It may not be 100% aligned for the current custodians for the current institutions that are holding the data. But I think that that at the end of the day, it's something that the regulators are rightfully pushing. And I hope that we'll see some progress in the upcoming years. Actually, it is my understanding that there have been some interesting developments over the last few days on that topic. So let's see. But I think it may have a really good impact for the overall population. Let's see.
All right. Thank you, Luis. That's very insightful. Really appreciate that. I guess if you were to take that a step further, though, do you predict any new regulations for the Mexican fintech sector? So not just just the remittances or the neobank side of things, but the entire segment itself. Do you see anything that's coming of age in 2021?
So I think that more than regulation itself, it would be a little bit more about the execution. Like, for instance, we have been talking about open APIs. The high-level regulation is already there. It's like how the whole ecosystem is gonna actually execute upon that regulation. Maybe some refinement will be needed, but what I think we're gonna see is like things already happening. And the first example was the fintech regulation and the different licenses that are already being assigned over the recent months. Then we have the open banking. that still is in a very embryonic state, but has to move forward. So I think that the largest development will be on the actual execution, on the actual happening, rather than the dramatic changes on the overall frameworks. That's kind of my feeling. Maybe we can anticipate, or we may think that that there may be some adjustment to other non-fintech institutions, a bit also pointed toward their modernization, towards becoming more digital, towards offering a more advanced service to clients. But I think that in terms of the fintech arena, defined in a very broad way, not necessarily just what is considered as fintech by the regulation. I think that what we'll see will be much more focused on the actual execution, on the refinement, on the clarification of some elements that may be kind of still in the air for us, still to decide or to observe how is the actual operation of those mechanisms versus a dramatic change in the overall framework.
Okay.
I think there's nothing really more to add. I think it's really more about the execution of the fintech regulation that Mexico introduced. I think that really has to get more established. They have to become a little bit more faster in their whole processes, and I think that's what they will have to focus on. What we might see, not right now, but I can see that just because of the hot topic, is obviously some blockchain specific regulations, cryptocurrency regulations, that they might introduce something very rapidly, and then afterwards start thinking about how to do it properly or see the consequences of it. I think that is something I could see, but nothing immediately right now. I think there are other issues that the country has to focus on.
Okay, fantastic, excellent. Thank you, gentlemen. So if we were to say, I think Matthias alluded to this at the onset of our webinar today, from your vantage point, from either side, from both Klar and at Transpaygo, what are some blockchain-based innovations that you have seen, and what are some, if you could share some thoughts about those technologies?
Yeah. I mean, on the blockchain itself, here in Mexico, we have been working with Ripple and XRPs for the last 2-3 years. For us, it has been a nice game changer because just of the speed of transferring the money from Europe into Mexico, has changed a lot, and especially the costs have been reduced significantly. And now with working with Spay together, we can literally say, okay, we can do instant settlement within 30 minutes, or actually instantly, if we have enough cash on our account in Mexico. Other technologies that we've seen is obviously on the blockchain, some verifications, KYC, but not too. I haven't seen that too much here in Mexico yet. And then one of the players here in Mexico would be the Bitso, that is quite big in the blockchain cryptocurrency exchanges. So that's what we've seen here. I like working with them as well. They are as well a reliable, fast company when it comes to transfers, good compliance. That's what we've seen. And then obviously, as it is sponsored by Roxe here, we have seen your technology. This is something that can become and will become interesting, I think, as well for the Mexican market. So I'm looking forward as well to see what we can do together in the future there.
Thanks, Matthias. Luis, any thoughts?
Yeah, I think I typically look at it from a slightly different perspective, probably than what Matthias was mentioning. It's very clear that that cryptos are something really hot in the market. But if we think about blockchains and other technologies, I think that we cannot go through that topic without actually looking at how the overall technology stacks are changing. Because right now, we basically talk about universes of microservices. We talk about technologies in the cloud. We talk about very different frameworks from the frameworks that we were talking 10 or 20 years ago, with monolithic core banking systems and mainframes and different technology. And it's quite interesting because it's even already considered in regulation, like the Fintech regulation already talk about clouds. The different participants in this new market are already considering all those advances, and it truly helps deliver again much more value to the population, being much faster in the go-to-market, being able to continuously offer and adapt new products. So it's something that we are currently trying to do. It's in our DNA. It's part of what we want to make sure that we cannot fail at it. It's about having a state-of-the-art technology. You mentioned blockchain, and as it has been discussed, it has a number of applications beyond cryptos, and settlements is definitely one of them. And we think that there may be some progress there. Because, for instance, we have an amazing interbank payment system with settlements within seconds, but still some other payment channels are less advanced or more kind of batch basis. When we look at card payments, for instance, still like we observe the batch processes with settlements happening day plus one or every several hours, and we compare that with other technologies already available in the market, as mentioned, interbank payment system, and I think there is still a lot of room to move forward on a number of areas there. So quite interested in seeing progress there, and I think that all that progress may have a very relevant impact on both the actual institution that can benefit from much more faster and much less expensive technologies, and it will have a very clear advantage for users as well.
I agree. I think we will see more changes with blockchain when it comes to settlement, when it comes to KYC data, in general to the data management of companies, and not only in the finance world. And so I think for the banking, it will be quite interesting for instant settlements, for credit, for loans, for the information on your customer, that you can share maybe hopefully in a safer way together. Again, it's about them. I see this as a chain as a collaboration, not as working against each other. So that's I think I think that it can be quite positive in the future.
Excellent. I guess it's our final point before I go into the Q&A session. It's a great segue. So I guess, as we all know, with blockchain, you can either send and receive payments, so starting with fiat, ending with fiat, or there could be an element of a different asset, whereas a digital currency could be involved, as we're kind of alluding to here. If we take that a step further from the trends, from your viewpoint, if you were to share your views on any growing trends in the area of digital currencies, in your view, how much progress do you think can be made in the area across the region? Not just focusing on Mexico, of course, but because we have to look at it from a regional perspective. If you perhaps you could share some of your thoughts on that particular piece.
Especially cross-border payments, I think there's a huge possibilities here in Latin America. no matter which cryptocurrency we're talking about, it would be interesting to see just one or a few stable currencies without a lot of volatility. But I think it's something that can be quite interesting for the Latin American market, not only Latin American markets, but regarding a cryptocurrency where we can see that the customers can use it as a payment or as a fair payment for exchange, because it will be just faster. You know, a lot of those currencies are still sort of traded in US dollars. When I talk to our partners in Chile, and they tell me that they basically have two, I mean, there's the Chilean pesos, and then they have a unified currency, the UF. And I'm asking, what is the UF? Oh, it's some currency that's not official. Okay, it's getting a little bit confusing. And so I think with what I hope with cryptocurrencies, and what we want to change as well with cryptocurrencies, is to have a faster flow for customers, that they can as well pay and receive in cryptocurrencies without being massively penalized, and that they hopefully can use it potentially as a payment as well. However, obviously we will see in the future here the issue with the central banks, with governments that would block it. We've seen it now in the last few days. Turkey has blocked now paying with cryptocurrencies. Apparently, I've read somewhere that is it Peru or Bolivia is thinking of forbidding cryptocurrencies. So I think we're still far away from using cryptocurrencies as payments. What I still hope is to have this a means of a fair exchange in those difficult markets. That's what my hope is, and I think where we are moving towards having cryptocurrencies as a fair exchange mechanism.
Excellent.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting arena. It's a really interesting market to keep monitoring over the upcoming several months. We have on the one side all the clients, all the potential users that are having a real interest on cryptos. It may be because it's cool, it's hot right now. I think everyone is talking about cryptos. We cannot become blind to the other reality of Latin America right now. That is that we are seeing a really large inflows and outflows of migration. So it asks for easy and inexpensive mechanism to send money to their different countries. And on the other side, of course, we have the position of central banks that are trying to keep the whole flow under certain control, to make sure that there is a regularized flow. There is something that doesn't go against any of the principles of the overall market. So I think that it's gonna be quite interesting to monitor, to see how the different pieces settle, and to observe how the disruption takes place and becomes much more structural in the overall market. Because I really think that it's gonna be much further progress, but quite interested in observing what's gonna be the outcome, and in understanding how can the different players participate in the market and offer value to the interested parties.
Yeah, and I think as well the governments and central banks need to be careful here, because I mean we've seen it as well already from customers asking. Is that we see there has become an informal economy of trading, and especially in those difficult markets where customers start trading with cryptocurrencies and start paying with cryptocurrencies, even though it's officially not legal. yeah, so I think this is, the governments will have to pay attention to it and hopefully just make it as a sort of a, not ignore it and forbid everything right away, but I understand their concerns with it as well about KYC regulations. But I hope, again, that it's about opening it up in a slow, efficient way for our customers.
Excellent. Well, gentlemen, thank you for that. I guess it's we have time for a couple of questions from a Q&A perspective. I'll try to be as efficient as possible here. I guess a couple one that jumps out at me that I really like this question is, are there any, or as your companies grow, I should say, either in Mexico or into other regions, what other markets are you most interested in? So I don't know if Matthius, you want to start?
Country-wise?
Country-wise, correct.
Markets, yeah. I mean, as we said, we are going to focus now as a company more on those Latin American markets, moving into Colombia and Chile. Very much, we're interested in Argentina. We're interested in Peru. Overall, I think Central America can become interesting, and what I'm really interested in is the Caribbean. I think that's a very fragmented market as well. You have a lot of individual banks that are coming to you with some offerings, but there's still no, what we have seen, no good service. So for me, some of the Central American countries and the Caribbean countries.
Excellent. Luis?
Yeah, in our case, it's I think that the first thing is definitely we have a very strong focus in Mexico. As of today, our industry is kind of more difficult or takes a bit more time to do every single international expansion. But still, like Mexico as the primary market, and then looking always into the other large Spanish-speaking countries in Latin America, obviously mostly in South America. Brazil is a complicated beast, I would say, and is a market that probably is a little bit more defined, and kind of the battle is quite tilted towards one of the players there. But still, we think that there are quite significant opportunities to participate and to change the other large markets in South America. So that's kind of our next focus problem.
Excellent. Thank you. I guess it is another interesting question. Are there any best practices from Mexico that you feel is unique and really isn't seen in other parts of the world?
Luis, that might be something more for you.
Yeah, I think that that Mexico has been doing a very significant progress in everything related to the challenger banking industry, to the fintechs, and particularly to the regulation, to the IFPs that are starting to play here. We have, I think that we have a very, very interesting ingredients to see a very interesting battle going forward. Like regulation is already there, so what we can infer from that is that the Mexican government and the Mexican regulators are truly interested in fostering innovation in the markets. And then we have the clients who to some extent are not properly served, particularly when we think about credit. And then we have the traditional institution that if you look at the investor reports for many of them, you realize that Mexico is a very, very, very lucrative market. So it's like the economics seems to be there, the interest from the clients seems to be there, the support from the government seems to be there. So we may anticipate that that Mexico will be a really good market to foster innovation, because if all those ingredients are there, then we as challengers have all the responsibility to offer really valuable solutions to the market. I think that, that now the ball is in our court, and we need to deliver there.
Excellent. Thank you, Luis. I guess we'll run out of time, but I'll add a few comments I'd like to leave everyone with. I guess you mentioned the role of government. Speaking of the role of government in encouraging innovation in the payments industry, with us here at Roxe, we've recently announced that we're offering a free CBDC, central bank digital currency payment network and platform for central banks of developing markets to launch their own CBDC. From our vantage point, we believe that this will be able to help them improve their economies, but also get to the unbanked. As we talked about during the course of the conversation today, cash is still being used to a large extent, and getting to that unbanked segment within the markets that may not have as easily access to the mobile wallets and provide more financial inclusion. So it's something that we're doing here, and I just wanted to extend my thanks to the two of you. On behalf of everyone here at Roxe, I want to thank both Matthius Würmoeck and Luis Ortiz Carrillo for sharing your insights with our audience. Once again, my name is Thomas Trepanier, Managing Director of Business Development at Roxe. And if there's any way we can help your company with cross-border payments, remittances, please let me or anyone at Roxe know. You can always fill out the contact us form at our website, roxe.io. Our next Roxe webinar will be held at the end of May, and we hope that you'll be able to join us during that time. Until next time, thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Matthias. Thank you
Take care,
very much,
everyone.
Thomas.
Take care, Luis. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Thomas. Bye.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.